Get ready for the countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. It's still
Welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of the Still Real The Show, episode number 110 from March 22nd, 2012. We are now closer, that much closer, to WrestleMania 28. Next week is our WrestleMania 28 preview and prediction show. But this week, we recap all the latest in the world of wrestling, and we actually give you some preview and predictions from my co-host today. But nonetheless, I am the champ, Jeff Peck, and joining me, as always, for the last time where it's pre-parent, soon-to-be dad, CZW, ROH, ECW announcer, editor-in-chief of CamelClutchBlog.com. It's currently quiet in his household right this second, but next week, in 2 weeks, it's going to be a whole different story with the one and only Eric Gargiulo. Eric, how are we, buddy?
Jeff, I am doing fantastic. You know, it is the calm before the storm of baby Gargiulo, sweeps in the College of Old Pennsylvania, but very exciting time, very anxious time, and just really a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's got to be really exciting right now. And I haven't even asked you this personally off air or on air, but what is the name generator right now in the Gargiulo house? Is it going to be, I've heard some rumors of maybe Eric Darcy Gargiulo,
right?
Brett Clendaniel Gargiulo, maybe Benny Lopez Gargiulo. What's the names been dwindled down to, man?
Well, in all seriousness, we are looking at Ethan Paul Gargiulo, or we are looking at Nora Marilyn Gargiulo.
I like it, man.
Yeah,
those are really nice names. So it is calm before the storm right now. Last week you and I were joking around. You got the kid coming in next week, and then WrestleMania season. So your child really wanted to see Maria Menounos wrestle, correct?
Well, there are some fans, I would not, of course, be one of them. There are some fans that would actually have to sit here with you, Jeff, and debate for a few minutes as to which would be the more important day. Now, for me, of course, it's the birth of my child, but, clipping a toenail would be almost more important as well. But, yes, she or he wants to see Maria Menounos. I told them that, they heard through, their mother's belly that Cena and Rock was once in a lifetime, that they would never, ever wrestle again. So they want to make sure they get out in time to see that as well, because they know there'll never be a rematch.
Absolutely. There will never be a rematch until next year.
Right.
That's how things go in WWE. But, Eric, on tap for this week's show, we're going to look at this past week's Raw, as usual. Some rumors regarding FCW, a former WWE star returning. And towards the end of our show, since you won't be here next week, we'll get your preview and predictions for WrestleMania 28 as the card stands right this second. But let's kick it off by looking back at, I guess, the news story before Monday Night Raw was quite a big news story. When you first saw it come over the news waves there, I saw it post up there at WrestleChat.net via WWE.com, thanks to WrestleChat Brett, that John Cena was involved in a car accident. And this is something that you have really discussed a lot since the beginning of the match being announced was, what happens if The Rock gets injured on a movie set or even in the ring doing something? What if John Cena gets injured at any point before WrestleMania 28, before that match, and he can't wrestle? And here we are with when the news first broke of him being in a car accident, rear-ended by a tractor trailer. I think a lot of wrestling fans had all of a sudden like, okay, what's going to happen now with John Cena and The Rock?
I don't want to cut you off there, but
ahead.
I got to say I'm a little disappointed that The Rock didn't make any jokes about Cena getting rear-ended yesterday.
You and me both. It was really, for the most part, Cena never discussed it in any promos. Rock didn't cut it in that promo he did outside of the Rocky Balboa statue. With the exception of Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler doing these horrible teasers, and I'm not really one. Like, it really reminded me, Eric, with this whole thing with the John Cena car accident. I mean, it was a real-life thing. It's no bullshit. He was really rear-ended. Thankfully, he wasn't, hurt too badly. But it really reminded me of when Shawn Michaels was beat up by the Marines in I think, Syracuse. And not the Marine from the movie, actual Marines. And had to drop the title to, and I can't believe this coincides with what we'll talk about later on, Dean Douglas, who also kind of made an appearance on Raw this past Sunday night.
He finally got booked on Raw. Not really, but he finally was on. Well, not really even there.
Yeah, I mean, nobody really noticed until
he was in the building.
He was in the building. He was there, and I'm sure we'll talk about Luke Hawk's best friend in a little bit later.
Right.
But, what do you think when you've been a long-time wrestling fan? We've seen this stuff in the past with like ECW, with the Sandman's son, but it wasn't to the extent where it was something real life. Like, the only thing I can contribute this to is when Shawn Michaels was beat up by the Marines, like I said, like back in '95. And they really try to push on it. I don't think it grasped well with the TV audience. But what did you think when the WWE was pulling strings and immediately turned this could have been worse situation from John Cena into a potential storyline?
Well, the most real case of this happening, a huge main event falling through at the last minute, because when Michaels had that incident in Albany or Syracuse, it's not like he was the main event. He was still, I believe, supporting card, as the Intercontinental Champion in the match with Shane Douglas. The only time that I can remember this happening, at least in my lifetime here, and I mean, I know it's happened in the past, but as far as like the big pay-per-view era of wrestling would probably be the Starrcade, where Ric Flair wound up wrestling Vader. It was scheduled to be Vader and Psycho Sid, and then Sid had that incident with Arn in Germany, and he was pulled from the show. And that's really the only time I can remember something falling apart last minute. I mean, you and I mean, we've heard all kinds of stories about this WrestleMania main event, being off the books for this, but never this close to the show. I mean, Flair and Vader and Sid is the only time I could really remember that happening.
I actually I want to throw one in there too, and it's tragic to say, but that Chris Benoit incident is one that really shook up the card.
Main event?
Well, he wasn't in the main event, but I mean, it's just another one to throw out there too. Is Benoit no showing whatever that pay-per-view was that year?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that one as well. But I mean, like a main event that you spent all this money, promoting. Falling apart. I mean, if you think about it, in 28 years, the WWE's gotten pretty damn lucky. And they almost started out, it didn't almost, it didn't start off so, it almost didn't start off so lucky. There you go, Eric. It almost didn't start off so lucky because, what some may know or some may not know is that Mr. T was having second thoughts all the way up to the day of the show, and that there was some real concern that he wasn't going to show up to WrestleMania, or he wasn't going to get in the ring, or he wasn't going to do business. I mean, there was real concern there. And I remember, too, there's a story, and I've never been able to confirm it with Paul Orndorff, and I wish I did, but this is, I interviewed him for about an hour and a half. And so one question I forgot to ask him, there's a rumor that if you go back to WrestleMania 3 and you look at that card, Orndorff isn't on the card. And there's a rumor that Orndorff is not booked on the card in case Andre wasn't healthy enough to wrestle Hogan in the main event, that Orndorff was going to wind up coming in and wrestling Hogan at the last minute, and that he was kind of kept off the card for that reason. I don't know if that's true, but if you look at the time period, it makes all the sense in the world, unless there's a story to it that we don't know. But, in all the years of WrestleMania, they've really gotten pretty lucky when it comes to this stuff. But, yeah, it's one of those things where when you first get a report, if you're in Titan Towers or if you're, in Philly yesterday and you're Vince McMahon or Triple H or any of the WWE executives, and you get that call and the first thing they say is John Cena was in a car accident, I mean, you got to be grasping your heart, with all this money and millions spent, because, it's not like It's not like the late 90s or early part of the last decade where, WWE was so hot that you could just kind of mix and match. If this happened, I mean, there's really nothing comparable to this that you could put together on the roster right now